There's a silence most men carry, and they wear it like armor. It doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't announce itself in drama or breakdowns. No, this silence is elegant, well-groomed, disciplined. It shows up in reliable routines, in perfectly timed responses, in lives that seem fine on the outside. But this silence doesn't come from peace. It comes from disconnection. It's the silence of the man who gets things done, but can't remember the last time he felt something real. The man who shows up to work early, comes home late, stays busy so the noise of his own thoughts doesn't catch up. The man who says, "I'm good," so quickly and so often, he starts believing it himself. It's the silence of a man who forgot how to be with himself. I know this silence well because I lived it. There was a time in my life when I had everything I thought I was supposed to want: a steady income, a long-term partner, a gym schedule that never failed, a calendar full of meetings and responsibilities. We had just moved in together. The furniture was arranged. The kitchen was organized. The social media posts made it all look like a grown-up dream. But dreams don't echo like that, because at night, when everything was supposed to feel like home, what I felt was absence, not hers, mine. It's hard to explain how two people can sleep in the same bed and be galaxies apart, but you know it when you're in it. We stopped laughing. We stopped asking questions that mattered. And eventually, we stopped looking at each other, really looking, as if seeing each other fully would make it impossible to keep pretending. She was the first to stop pretending. One night, after dinner, she sat across from me, hands clasped, voice calm, and she said it. The sentence I'll never forget. "You're never really here. You function, but you don't feel anything." I remember the hum of the refrigerator filling the space after her words. I remember looking at her, trying to find the right thing to say, and realizing there was no right thing. Because she was right. I had spent so much energy trying to be dependable, successful, unshakable, that I had forgotten how to be present. I didn't break down that night. There were no dramatic tears, no slamming doors, just the quiet thud of a truth landing too hard to ignore. She moved out a few months later, and in that silence, I finally heard myself. Not the strong version, not the composed version, but the scared, exhausted man who had been trying to outrun his own reflection. That's when a friend gave me a book. No lecture, just a short sentence. You need this, not because you're weak, because you're tired of pretending you're not. The book was Man Up by Bedros Keuilian, and it did what no conversation had done before. It didn't give me advice, it gave me a mirror. Every chapter felt like a confrontation, a reminder that I hadn't failed because I was broken. I had failed because I was dishonest with myself. I realized I had built my life like a fortress, impressive from the outside, empty on the inside. I wasn't lazy, I wasn't undisciplined, I just wasn't aligned. I had goals, but they weren't mine. They were responses to expectations, not reflections of who I truly was. The book asked one piercing question: what are you tolerating? And as I sat with it, the list began to write itself. I was tolerating my own absence from my life, tolerating emotional avoidance, tolerating pretending I was fine, tolerating comfort that slowly suffocated my soul. I had mistaken endurance for strength, control for leadership, routine for growth. But true growth is disruptive. It asks you to stop performing and start participating. That's what I began to do, not with huge showy gestures, but with quiet revolutions. I started waking up early, not to grind, but to greet myself. I wrote down 3 actions each morning that would make me proud. Not productive, proud. Some days it was: tell the truth, move your body with kindness, say thank you and mean it. I wore a rubber band on my wrist every time I told myself a lie. I don't have time. That's just how I am. It's not a big deal. I snapped it. That sting became sacred because pain that brings awareness is the beginning of healing. At work, I stopped sugarcoating, started saying what I meant, not to hurt, but to honor myself and others. I didn't become a different man overnight, but I became more of myself. And the more honest I got, the more everything began to align. Not perfectly, not always, but enough to feel real. That's what man up really means. Not tightening your grip, not pushing through pain until you break. It means letting go of the roles that no longer serve you and reclaiming the parts of you that were never meant to be hidden. And now, when I look in the mirror, I don't just see the man who gets things done. I see the man who's learning to feel, to speak, to listen, to show up in ways that don't just impress, but connect. And if this resonates, maybe it's your time too. Time to stop pretending. Time to stop performing. Time to come home to yourself. Start with one excuse, just one. Write it down. Then write, "I'm done with it." And if this found you in a moment of stillness, if it cracked something open, write in the comments, "I'm ready to return to who I was before I had to perform." Let's grow slow and root deep, together. What nobody tells you is how loud the quiet can become when you stop running from it. I used to fill my life with noise, podcasts, news, the low hum of productivity, because in silence, there are no masks. And mine had started to crack. In that season, after she left, I stopped knowing what day it was, not because I lost track of time, but because all my markers for meaning were tied to who I thought I had to be. The boyfriend, the provider, the reliable man who never flinched. Without those roles, I was just me, and I didn't really know who that was anymore. Some mornings, I stared at my reflection and wondered, who am I? When there's no one else to perform for. And the answer didn't come all at once. It came slowly. In the discipline of being honest, in choosing integrity over image, presence over performance. One memory sticks with me. I was at a friend's house, just a few guys talking casually. Someone asked how I'd been, and before I could launch into my usual all-good script, something stopped me. I said, "Not great, but I'm doing something about it." The room went quiet, and instead of shame, I felt seen. That's the thing most men don't expect. When you drop the armor, you make room for real connection. You give others permission to drop theirs too. And that, in itself, is leadership. The old me thought leadership meant having all the answers. The man I'm becoming knows that leadership means asking better questions. Questions like, what kind of man do I want to be when no one is watching? Who suffers when I stay silent? And what would it feel like to finally trust myself? The answers are never perfect, but they're honest. And in honesty, there is power. Now I build my days differently, not around what I have to prove, but around what I choose to practice. Peace, focus, gratitude, hard conversations, play, rest. I no longer see rest as a reward for burnout. I see it as an act of rebellion in a world that worships exhaustion. I don't chase discipline for validation. I pursue it as a form of devotion to the life I actually want to live. And when I fall short, which I still do, I no longer respond with punishment. I respond with presence. I ask myself, what am I avoiding? What does the boy in me need that the man in me has forgotten? That's the journey. It's not linear. It's not loud. It's not easy, but it's yours. And every time you choose it, you remember. You remember the version of yourself that dreamed without limits, the one who felt deeply, even if it hurt, the one who believed being good didn't mean being perfect. So if you've been drifting, if you've built a life that looks impressive but feels incomplete, maybe this is your invitation to start again, not from scratch, but from truth. Pick one thing today that you've been tolerating, one place where you've chosen comfort over alignment, and begin. You don't need to be ready. You just need to be honest. This world doesn't need more men who look the part. It needs more men who live their truth. Quietly, consistently, courageously. Start here. Start now. Write, I'm done with it. And if this moved something in you, write, I'm ready to return to who I was before I had to perform. Let's grow slow and root deep together.